Hi, it's Jennifer from Quiltin', Stitchin', and Kitties. Today I'm going to be showing you my temperature quilt, and I'm going to start from what the temperature is and how we put the pieces together. So let's go. So I look up on the Weather Channel what the temperature was, and then I record it on my little list, which shows all my temperatures. So yesterday it was 89 high and 59 low. Then I go to my box with all my colors in it, and I pull out the bag that's got 89 in it and 59. The low is just a square. So I got a pre-cut one. So that one's going to be the background. And then the high is a hexagon. And I cut those also from pretty much the same size square. I have one made, but I want to show you how to do it. So it's a very simple process. My hexagons are 3/4 of an inch, which means they're measured along the size at 3/4. Yes, I do use a glue stick, and the reason for that is because I have arthritis in my thumb and I can only do so much stitching. So I take my paper piece, I put a dab of glue on the back, and then I center it in my square and I just press it down. And yes, I do put my glue in the refrigerator because it comes out nicer, especially in the summer, and it lasts a little bit longer. Then I take my hexagon and I cut out approximately 3/8 of an inch from the edge of the hexagon, matching the lines. And a quarter's a little small to me, so I do about 3/8. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to be turned under. And that's it to start. Then I take my glue and I find the smallest or the narrowest one because I want that to go first. And then I just put a little dab of glue across the paper, close to the edge, but I try not to hit the edge. And then I fold down my edge over that. Then I turn it the same direction every time. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't matter, just keep going the same direction. Then I put put a dab of glue across there, press down on this one, dab of glue, press down on this one. I am hitting a little bit of the fabric and the paper so that that edge will catch right there. And oops, let me go back a little bit. And then put a little more glue. And then my last one, I really make sure that I catch both sides of the fabric and whatever of the paper I can, and fold it down, press it with my fingers. Then I take it to my dry iron and I press it from the back first, making sure everything's nice and flat. And I don't iron, I press because I don't want to move my fabric. Then I flip it over, press it again, flip it over, press it again. Then I wait for it to cool, takes about 10 seconds at the most. And then because I'm going to be appliquing this onto here, I will immediately take the paper out. The paper is just to get my shape. I'm going to give you another video on English paper piecing, but this is how it starts. But normally you don't take the paper out at this point. So I find my last edge that came down, I pull that up first gently, and then I take all the edges and pull them off, and then I gently pop my paper out. Try to catch it with my fingernail. Yeah, it kind of looks like that. Doesn't look great, but it will just fold back down really nicely because you've pressed it. And then I'm going to press it again from the back side. Get all those edges nice and flat. Flip it over, press it from the front, flip it over, and then I like to put just a tiny squirt of Best Press, unscented Best Press. And that keeps it really nice and flat when I'm going to applique it. And I just make sure that I press it dry. That's why I always use dry iron. And that looks good. And okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half. This is my background fabric, so that's the low temperature. Just going to finger press it. And then I'm going to center my hexagon. I'm going to use the longest distance and put those points on the fold. Okay, I'm going to eyeball that it is balanced on both sides, same distance. And then this is a template that I'm using for my Quilt As You Go, which I'll explain to that. And I put little tiny dots, you can't see them, but I put little tiny dots where the tips of my hexagon should be. So I just place that down, make sure that it looks like they're in the right place. Just eyeball it again. Yeah, it just looks like it needs to go up just a tiny bit. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. So then I just take a pin, short pin or an applique pin, and I pin the hexagon to the background. So now it looks like this. Now I'm going to hand applique the hexagon to the background. So I'll be back. Okay, I have now threaded my needle. I'm using Superior Thread So Fine thread. It's a 60 weight polyester. I love the way it appliques because it kind of sinks into the fabric. I always use a thread that matches my background and not the hexagon. It shows less that way. When you first start up, just pick your spot, come from the back and come straight up and just grab the like two or three threads on the edge of the hexagon, and then pull your needle through. Then when you do your next stitch, you go down almost in the same spot. Let's make sure my thread's all the way through. But you go down perpendicular. That's really important. That's how you don't see the stitches. You're basically right next to where you came up, and you're next to the hexagon, and you go down perpendicular into the fabric. Then grab your needle and come up, 1/16 of an inch, between a 16th and an 8th, right in the edge of your fabric again, and pull it through. And when you do that, it is almost impossible to see the stitch. But I've seen a lot of people come in at an angle from the top, but that first point when you go down, you really need to go down perpendicular. Obviously, you don't have to let go of your needle. Oops. And then come up a little distance away, right on the edge of your fabric. Hard to do this looking, standing up, I guess. Okay, and then pull it up. And we're going to do that all the way around and come back to where we started. And then and then I will show you how to finish. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I have stitched all the way around to the beginning, and now I'm ready to end my thread. So what I want to do is I want to go down perpendicular right through the fabric again, and then come up on the back side, and just a little distance away from where you came up, just grab a few threads, stick your needle through, and then at the end of that, get a couple more threads, make a loop with your thread, come through twice, and now you've got a knot. And then just trim your thread. So now you're appliqued. I wanted to mention to you the needles that I use. They are called Tulip Applique Needles, number 10 Big Eye. And they were recommended by Tula Pink, um, who is, a pretty famous designer and does a lot of English paper piecing and handwork. And so I decided to try them, and they are absolute heaven. Not real inexpensive, but wonderful, wonderful needles. Okay, so take out my holding pen. And now what I want to do is put my square on my Quilt As You Go backing. So this wonderful set that I have, which this one I got from Missouri Star, has the size of the inner piece that you want to cut. Now this is a 2.5-inch square, so you could cut it without using this piece. And then it has the Quilt As You Go background. So what does Quilt As You Go mean? What it means is that you put this on here, you bring down the edges twice and stitch all the way around, and then your little square is completely finished. Then you hand stitch it or machine stitch it to the next one. So when I finish this quilt at the end of the year, it will be all done. Okay, so what I do is I put the Quilt As You Go background down. Make sure I get that good in the camera for you. And then I put some special tape so it doesn't slip on the back of my template. Put that exactly on top of the piece that you've cut, and you cut it from this template, which is really nice. Then take a piece of batting, and I've used my whole quilt, I've used a Quilter's Dream Orient, and I've cut those to 2.5-inch squares. That fits right inside. Then your background square with your hexagon fits right inside. And now it's centered because this Quilt As You Go template is centered. And so there's no fudging trying to figure out exactly where the center is. And then you just very carefully pull this off. And then you pin. Or you can pin before you pull it off. Either way is okay. So just pin on 2 sides is all you need. And now you're ready to start stitching. So what you do is you fold down an edge, not quite so it's touching the edge of the background, because you got to need a little extra room because of the width of the batting. And then you can just finger press it and then fold it down again. You can even measure it if you want to see if it's 1/4 of an inch. And then I use clips, which have disappeared on me. So I will get another one out of here. Oh man, I'm stuck. I'm going to have to pause. I'll be back. Okay, so I have folded this down and folded it down again. And now I'm going to clip. I use these Wonder Clips with a little teeny tiny point. And I clip it on both sides. Then I turn it around. I do the same thing on the opposite side of the square. Again, fold it down, flip it, and flip it again. And then to make sure I've got it almost exactly 2.5, I just use this as a measuring device. You can also use a ruler. And then I just check it that yes, in fact, it is 2.5 across, that I didn't mess up my folding. Then I'm going to like a hand applique stitch, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to stitch all the way across this side. I am going to use purple this time. And then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to stitch all the way across here. After I finish those, then I will do the ends. So just bring your needle up right. Oh, it's hard to grab needles off of this. Just bring your needle up here. Make sure not the thread, come through, and then just do almost like a binding stitch just do a little binding stitch across and hide most of your thread. And like I said, I'm using not the background color of the fabric, but I'm using the Quilt As You Go because it blends in that way. So I will do those two sides and then I'll be back. Okay, I have stitched down these two sides and now I'm going to stitch down these two sides. So at this point I can take my pins out. I do the same thing I did before. I fold down to almost touching, finger press across, and then fold again and clip. And I seem to have lost my clips again. Gosh, where are they all going? There we go. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Fold those down. Borrow a clip from over here. Oops. Try and get your ends. Kind of sometimes have to push them over a little bit. And when you fold down, try and get your ends not to be sticking out. But if they stick out a little, you're going to be able to use your needle to push them in. And then same thing, I'm going to measure across, and it's good 2.5. So just start stitching across. Do come down the side right here and put a couple of stitches. It's hard to see. Let me move this a little bit. So that you're holding that edge down. Okay. And then if you have a little point that sticks out, just take your needle and kind of slide it underneath. So then go across both sides, and then I'll show you how to connect it to the previous one. Okay, I have stitched all 4 sides of my little block, and I'm now going to place it next to the previous day's block. So what I'm doing on mine is I am alternating point up, longest point on the hexagon, flat side, point up. So they're alternating next to each other and from the row above, just to give it a little bit more interest. So as you can see, this was yesterday, exactly the same temperature ranges because they both match. So all I do is I look at the previous one. It was flat across the top. So this one is going to be pointed across the top. I still have my thread attached from when I did my last side. So I'm going to stick it right here. Then all I do is flip them together, put a little clip, and then I hand stitch. Oh, this needle just does not want to come off the mat. There, I got it. Okay. Oops. I think I've clipped my thread. That happens sometimes. There we go. Okay. So all I'm going to do, there we go. Gee, sorry about that. Excuse me. All I'm going to do is come across. Try and hold this so you can see what I'm doing. It's tough, especially with the thread matching. I'm going to come in from this side. Just grab a couple of threads on the top edge of the back one and a couple of threads the top edge of the front one. And I'm just going to go across and do a stitch. So I'm just sewing these together. And this is very similar to what you do in English papers piecing. So you just grab a couple of threads from the top of this one, couple of threads from the top of this one, bring your needle across, and you're sewing it together. And so, for example, these are all hand stitched together. These are my current row and my previous row. And I stitch them together as I go along. I'm a little behind on getting on my rows together, but I try and not leave it too long. So this only takes about, I don't know, 7-8 minutes to stitch one across. And then when I get enough attached this way, then I'll attach them going across in rows. And so currently I have, from the beginning of the year, you can see the difference in the colors. This is January 1st right here at the top. Goes across 16 days all the way across, makes it 40 inches across. And then these rows are all completely attached together. So this takes it down to about March, I believe. So those are all done. So that's what I'm saying. When I get to the end of the year, if I keep up with attaching all the pieces, the whole quilt will be completely done. No quilting to deal with, just a quilt ready to go. But it's really interesting to watch how the colors have changed, because it's gotten obviously so warm in summer. So the pinks represent 85 to 89. The oranges were like 95. So that's it for now. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. No, it's kind of a long process to show you on camera, but it goes a lot faster when you're doing it yourself. So I appreciate you watching my video, and please like and subscribe. Set up that bell so it's solid black so you get notifications. And I'll be back another day with some other kind of fun thing. You take care and have a good day. Bye now. What? You want a treat? Do you want a treat? Yeah? You sure? All right. Hang on. To finish. I'll be back.